Welcome to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, brought to you by Pilma. This podcast helps lead lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Here is your legal marketing expert and host, Ken Hardison.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Ken Hardison, and welcome to another episode of Grow Your Law Firm. And today we have the pleasure of having Molly McGrath, who since the late 90s has coached, consulted, and directed presidents and founders of national organizations and over 4,000 law firms in executive level leadership, continuous improvement, and team empowerment initiatives to infiltrate new markets, leveraging partner ecosystems, and producing profitability. Now, she also has a staffing agency, but she takes it further than that. She helps this consulting work to and I'm gonna get her to talk a little bit about entrepreneurial, right? Am I right on that?
Yep.
So tell us a little bit more about yourself, and we'll get right into it. And I appreciate you doing this today, by the way.
Oh, thank you for having me, Ken. I really, really appreciate it. I could talk about this stuff all day long. As you said, since the late 90s, I've been in the legal space, and it really came from a passion where I worked for a national organization that trained and consulted estate planning and elder law firms. And through that, I was part of growing one of the very first coaching programs. I go to all the national conferences way back when you flew all over the country to attend conferences. And it's fascinating to me because as we are coaching the attorneys, and you have hot seats, they would stand up and share what's working, what's not working, where they're jammed up. Across the board, it was constantly about staffing. It was about their people. How do I get my employees to take ownership? How do I get my employees to step up and lead? How do I get my people to care, anybody else in the building to care as much about the clients and the conversions and profit and all that stuff as much as I do? And it was fascinating to me because then we would go to the cocktail parties and the breakout sessions, things of that nature. And on the other side of the ball is the employees saying, I can't get my attorney to give up control. They won't let me help them. I'm like, there is a massive disconnect here. They both want the same thing, but they're not speaking the same language. There has to be a way to get them on the same playing field and to hear each other and to move forward to true north of their common goal, which is really when I started my business back in 1997, hiring and empowering solutions, and started off with kicking off with a team empowerment academy. So the attorneys would be in one conference room learning everything they needed to do to grow their law firm and their business and things of nature. I'd be in the other breakout room working with the staff to teach them on how to step up and lead and really understand what it was to support an entrepreneur, i.e. an attorney. And that's really where I coined the term entrepreneurs in the entrepreneurs world.
Right. And so, we were talking about before we got started today that you're right. I do a survey to our Pilma members, and probably, there's two major deals. I want more cases, and I can't find good help. I can't find good associates. I can't find good paralegals or your case managers or whatever. And if I do find them, I can't keep them because somebody's poaching them, and and it's just. What are you seeing out there? Because you've been in this since '97. So what are you seeing? Mm-hmm. What do you see the landscape as?
The legal space has always been tight. And it has never been as tight as I have seen it, probably in the past 5 years. But now since COVID, since 2020, it is like nothing that I've ever seen. I'm hearing this from recruiters in every industry. But in the legal space in particular, I have several recruiters that I work with that focus just in the legal space. And sometimes I won't take on a job unless I'm 100% confident that I can fulfill it. So we do flat fee retained search, which is very different. Most recruiters do commission based on annual salary. I don't like that model because I want to find you the best person for the least amount of money and the person that's going to stay the longest. But so often when an attorney will call me, I'll do a whole recruiting mapping, seeing what the demographics look like, what available candidates are, what candidates are out there who are either open looking for a job and or just even within your criteria. And this year I have turned down more work than I have in the history of time because I can't confidently fulfill these positions. I'll come back and say, not only, it doesn't matter if you're going to pay $1 million a year, what have you, based on your criteria of what you need, there just are not candidates out there right now. And it's whether it's in a paralegal position or an attorney position. So what we're finding is that attorneys are going to have to maybe improvise with some of their requirements. A lot of firms are outsourcing, not necessarily offshore, but in the United States to outsource paralegals. And that model is working very, very well. It's scary at first, but if you hire and outsource to the right model, it does work. I'm also seeing that years of service, so typically years of experience, people say, I need someone, I don't have time to train. I need someone that comes with batteries included. They must have X amount of years of experience, 3 to 5, 5 to 10, 10 plus, what have you. And I really have to work very hard on coaching and educating the attorneys that in this day and age, that it really, you're hiring human beings versus human doings first and foremost. I could find you a fantastic candidate that has your criteria, say 10 years experience, what have you. But if they're a rock star, they're going to leave with that much experience. So you have to be really aware that maybe you're going to get 2 years out of them, and then you're going to have to replace that position. The market is so very tight, so we have to get very creative in regards to our job descriptions and what we're looking for in candidates.
And I agree with you, and I see lawyers all the time. I take a different view of it, and maybe my deal is I always wanted somebody that was had a good aptitude and a good attitude that they could learn, and they had the right core values that would mesh in with my firm, because I think I could teach them, and maybe I didn't have time, but I think you got to make time. I did other than the litigators, I think we had to go out and get, you got to get somebody with experience, because there's nothing like experience in court. You just can't, it takes time.
Yeah.
But I heard a lot of lawyers out of law school that I had clerk with me, and kind of just groomed them to do it my way. I'm not saying my way is the right way, but it was my way, and that's the way I wanted to do it, and we had very success, and we kept a lot of those people. But I don't know. I think that's the deal. Everybody wants a quick fix, and I think you got to think outside the box. And another question I was going to ask you is, are you seeing law firms willing to hire people and let them go remote? I mean, I guess if they're willing to, you see any lawyers willing to do that, or they all want them to come into the office now after COVID?
I see a mix of it, and to your point of, I want to really piggyback on what you said. You hire people out of law school. Some positions you do have to have experience, absolutely, but maybe it's 5 years versus 7. You have to have a bit of flexibility. And to your point, if they have the right attitude, mindset, that you can always teach skills and knowledge, or you can outsource it to the different organizations that you belong to, things of that nature. But when you hire someone and you invest some type of time into them, they will never leave you. You and I were talking about your mentors that you've had and how indebted you are to them and grateful. And I think that young lawyers and young employees believe the same thing. So kudos to you and for investing in human beings and growing. I always say growing them up, because they won't leave you. And when it comes to leadership and retaining people, here's the deal. If you give them time, attention, and feedback, they won't leave. My favorite people, when I send them emails saying, hey, are you happy? Are you being paid well? Are you treated well? You want to look for another job? Are you interested in speaking with me? My favorite emails are when people say, nope, I am completely happy where I am. And I will sometimes go as far and send the managing partner an email and say, keep up the great work. Whatever you're doing, your people won't even talk to recruiters. So 10x what you're currently doing, because you're doing a great job running an organization. which goes into kind of the remote thing. So it depends, courts are opening, et cetera. But I have quite a few firms that have said they'll never go back to in person. I have a family law firm up in Seattle. They probably have 15 employees, attorneys, paralegals, all like. We just hired last week a paralegal for them in Pennsylvania, one in Ohio, and they're doing it, and they're doing it great. So I don't think it's an either or, it can be an and to the flip side of that, some people I'm interviewing and they're saying, I'm done with this remote stuff. Can you find me a law firm that's ready to bring people back in person? I really think it depends on the person and and what your marketplace, where you're at, what your restrictions are, and how shut down people have been, and things of that nature.
I think a good leader, I think their job is to coach their people up. I mean, if you're really a good leader, and that's being, I think that's your job is to be a coach and coach them up, or either get somebody that can do it. I mean, because you're right. I mean, there've been studies done, and everybody thinks people leave because of their money, and it's never usually not the money. It's they got a butthole for a supervisor, or they just don't feel appreciated. They don't feel appreciated. They don't see no room to grow. They're not growing because most of your A players, they want to grow. And
Yes.
they want to grow in knowledge and abilities and responsibilities. And that's the kind of people I want working with me. I want people like that. I want go-getters, because I might have to pay them 1.5 times more than I would an average person, but they're going to do twice as much work. So I'm still ahead of the game.
Yes. Yeah.
So that gets into the leadership. This empowering solutions. I read your ebook on this, and I want you to give out. We want to put it out so everybody can get it when we get through today. But I read it. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but every business, whether it's a law firm, they need leaders for about every 8 or 10 employees. I mean, that's what the books that I've read says. I don't know if that's true or not. That doesn't mean managers, but it means leaders, team leaders, people that can help coach other people up, things like that. And that's a lot of our PILMA mastermind, they're in my masterminds, they're having problems with that. That's one reason I wanted you on the show today, is I want to talk about that. So how can you empower these people to step up and lead? I know in your ebook, you talk about 8 steps to empowering, and I want to talk about that today. I like all this other stuff we're talking about, but this is the key. This is what I want to be the big deal about today's podcast, is because I see a big need out there, not just to get people in there, but once you get them in there, empower them to be leaders, because everybody can't be a leader, but you need it. And there's just a lack of that. And so how do you do that? Well, I got lawyers saying, how do we do that? How do we teach people to be leaders?
And one of my models is it should be leaders leading leaders. So often when people call me, especially if they want to delegate the leadership, it does start at the top first and foremost. And I think a lot of times attorneys overcomplicate it. In my experience of coaching over 4,000 law firms, you're overcomplicated, and it's really just like, it's as simple as giving people time, attention, and feedback. And what I hear so often is, I don't have time for that. And if you can streamline it and standardize it and make it very, very simple, it starts with just starting with having a weekly stand-up meeting every single week with every person in your firm. When people understand what the vision is, not only the mission, but they understand what the vision is long-term, and it's clear, concise, and well communicated, that can be tracked and measured every single week for every person in every seat on the bus, so to speak. It's really that simple. So how you train leaders, how you train your people to be empowered, to step up and lead, to take ownership of their role, is it starts with you first. And what I mean by that is, if you can invest in your people, regardless of if you're the first layer or you're the only layer, and you are very clear and you're vulnerable with what it is that you want, and what you expect and what you want to see in regards to measurement. And then you have them reflect back to you what they're hearing from you, and then you let go. A lot of times the firms that I see that really struggle with getting their people to step up and lead, I don't like the term micromanage, but I think the flip side of that is you disempower your employees by thinking that you're training them, but the way that it lands is it does land like micromanaging. So when you're clear on what it is that you want, whether it's 10x growth or whatever it might be, and then you allow for them to back into how they're going to get it to you, and then come to you with a proposed solution, empower them to use their critical thinking. I always say to the entrepreneur, to the attorney, share what it is that you want, be very clear and concise with it, and allow them to map it out and come back to you with it, and then you can shoot holes in it.
Yeah, one of my big deals is I think you got to let people know what your expectations are and figure out what their expectations are right to begin with, right to start. That's one of the things I like to do when we hire somebody new. That's the first thing I like to meet with them and just figure it out. Actually before we hire them, actually. But I think you need to be clear on that, because I don't think enough people are.
Yeah.
What
Well,
are you looking for? What do you want out of it?
and I think when you hire right, you made an excellent point. When you hire right, even if you're not clear as an entrepreneur, your people will ask the powerful questions to drag that clarity out of you. So it's not all on you. A lot of times the law firm owners think that it's on them to always come with the proposed solution, to always know the path and plan. And I say, if you hire right, and regardless of what seat they sit on the bus, and you hire true entrepreneurs, they'll know what powerful questions to ask you to drag it out of you and to get that clarity.
Yeah. So I think so. Is there any guidelines for lawyers? I mean, is there anything out there that kind of say is something they can read, or something they can go take, or a course they can take, or some kind of because I've read that leadership can be learned. I mean, but I guess, is there anything out there? I mean, do you do this?
Yeah, that's what I do. I serve as a fractional CMO and CEO for a lot of law firms. It's my favorite thing. I don't think lawyers have to go and take any course. Listen, if you're a great leader or you're a great manager, you wouldn't be a law firm owner. You wouldn't be an entrepreneur. And so often I think a confused mind says no. I think a lot of times the entrepreneurs spend so much time taking these courses and learning about leadership, which I think is fantastic for awareness and personal professional growth. But if you hire right, it really shouldn't have to be up to you to come up with this solution, to come up with the path and plan for that. What it is for you is to be very clear on your vision, your expectations, your standards, and what it is that you want. And a lot of times attorneys or entrepreneurs aren't clear on that in the beginning. So when you hire right, they'll be able to pull this out of you. So I don't know about any course that they need to take. Here's the deal. All you have to do is make it really simple and create like a think tank, have a strategic, mastermind like you have in your group and things of that nature, where you just schedule a strategic retreat with your team. I'd be happy to share my agenda with your listeners for anyone that wants to have that. I'll give it to you. It's easier to edit than create. Take what you like and leave the rest. But you create a strategic retreat and really create community and collaboration within your team. And then whiteboard, go to the whiteboard, treat it like a think tank, and map out, at least do a brain dump of everything that you want. And then you map it out there. And then ideally you give it to your manager, to your leader, whoever's next in line for you, to be able to create a project focuser out of it, and for them to also be able to project manage it. I think a lot of times the biggest miss that entrepreneurs and attorneys have is that they know what they want. They'll have a strategic retreat, things of that nature, a mastermind, what have you. Everyone walks away with the Oprah feel, the Oprah good feeling. Yay, yay, yay. We're all united. We're on a team. And then they walk out. And then the next thing you know, you wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning in a pool of sweat. You're like, whatever happened with all that? I don't see the money. I don't see the results. I don't see the marketing initiatives. Why didn't we do anything with that? And the employees feel the same way. They're like, we always have these rah-rah sessions and we never do anything with it. So the goal is to have consistency and accountability and give it to somebody to take it away. And then in your weekly team meetings, when you meet every single week, you're always spending 15 minutes reviewing your top 4 or 5 projects that you have and getting really clear on where we're at so you can back into it. If you set up that framework and do it every quarter, and the key to that is to make sure the managing attorney is not responsible for driving it, guiding it, and leading it. And I've yet to work with a firm when the attorney really delegated that and empowered another employee to lead that it hasn't worked.
Yeah, I believe, I used to hate meetings, and now I love them. But if you do them right, they're great. If you do them bad, they're terrible, right? I mean, if you don't hold them, but I'm big on Rockefeller habits and Garden Harnish, and uh, at Pilma we do a 7-minute huddle every morning. Then we have a weekly meeting, and then we have a monthly big meeting, and then we have a quarterly planning meeting. And it's not everybody's involved. I mean, the quarterly planning, that's your executive team, I guess you call it,
Sure.
your management team, whatever. But I'm trying to usher law firms to start doing that, especially in COVID, and a lot of them did during COVID. One of the things we really pushed was to have these morning huddles on Zoom, and some firms were having them twice a day because something you said was that really struck with me was, if they understand your vision or whatever, but just the whole deal of left hand knowing what the right hand's doing, or everybody knowing what everybody's priority is for that day, because we make it real short. What was your big win yesterday? Are you stuck on anything? And if you are, we'll take it outside. We ain't got time right now, but somebody will help you. And what's your priority? Number one priority today. And that might be some settlement check coming in. And then if everybody hears that, then they know that, or some big clients coming in, or some lawyer firms, everybody knows what's important to you. I just think I didn't used to do that. I think sometimes people were kind of, didn't know what was going on, and they felt like they were out of the loop. And I think that made them not feel as much as part of the team. And I think you hit on something really big, because I really do think the whole big deal is communication and affirmation and things like that. I just think people, it's, and I don't think it, people say, oh, it's all the younger generation. It's everybody. I don't, I hear all that stuff. No, I like it. I don't need as much as some people, but I don't know anybody that hates a pat on the back that, hey, that was a great job. I don't know anybody that hates that, dislikes it. Some people really crave it. And that's all they need. If they get that, and then they won't be answering the recruiters like you. They'll say, no, these people care about me, and that's more important than anything.
Yeah. You said so much there. And even the visual of you saying the pat on the back. I mean, think about it. Dad's walking through the living room and he pats you on the back and he says, great job, son. I mean, you see the level of performance that escalates just by that. And I love your framework. That's the exact framework I have every one of my law firms do. Monday morning meeting, end of the month meeting, daily huddle. To your point, a lot of firms are doing it in the morning and the afternoon. What's your number one priority today? And just getting that clarity. What's your win? Where are you jammed up? Where are you stuck? Where do you need help? When you run a business like that, you look forward to those meetings, because guess what? If you're not taking the time to do a 7-minute huddle, you're probably taking 27 minutes going back and forth with emails, creating communication ping pong that is causing so much confusion and people passing the buck and throwing each other under the bus that it's wholly ineffective. So, my whole mantra in business is touch it once. Get everyone in the same room, treat it like a military stand-up meeting, get the clarity, and then go on about your day. it's been proven over and over again. And since COVID, I mean, it's an effective way to run your firm.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Man, we're running out of time, but this has been great. Really has. Anything else that we haven't covered that you think is important that our listeners or viewers ought to know?
Yeah, I think one big tip I would leave, I think we talked a lot about leadership and getting people together and collaborating as a group, as a firm. But one thing I would say is also to make sure that you have individual employee growth plans. I just did a whole presentation at the Law Firm Growth Summit at Moshe's event on why the employee review must die. And I think reviews sound very outdated. They're like your head's on the chopping block. It's very archaic. It's uncomfortable. So I really transformed it into an employee growth plan. And again, I'd be happy to give my system to your listeners as a gift. But when you have each employee on a quarterly growth plan for their personal and professional goals, and it's very simple. They do a self-evaluation of themselves. They do an evaluation of the organization. Then the managing attorney or the HR person or leader will do an evaluation of them. And then you come together and you develop their growth plan. And they anchor to that. And out of that growth plan becomes their daily top priorities, their top 3 for the week. And so it's not something that you do and then you sweat bullets that when it comes around at the end of the year, what have you, it's a living, breathing plan that, and again, it's one of the greatest retention tools when people have that as well. So it's a phenomenal way to get your employees to step up and lead, for them to take ownership of their job, but it's also a phenomenal retention tool.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I stopped doing annual reviews or biannual reviews about 3 years ago. I just think that people, I read this book, and as you can tell, I read a lot, right? But I read it, and the woman, and I don't remember the name of it, it made sense to me. And I said, we're through. And I created something. Yours sounds better than mine, but it is, I want to know, what they like, what they don't like about the firm, what they think we could do better. I ask them, what should we stop doing, keep doing, start doing? And then I say, where do you want to be? What can we do to help you grow? I mean, what is it? What do you want to be? So I'm kind of, but I'm interested. I do want your form. And so if we can get it to Darlene, we can put it on we'll put it at the bottom here today.
Great.
Underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. And I think people, the deal is, I used to do them. Everybody knows they're coming, and they're doing extra work or try to impress you, and you just know about what happens the last 3 weeks. And if they did make a mistake, that's going to be in your mind, not the last 6 months or the last year. We do shout outs now. If somebody does something that we have a theme every quarter, one of our core values. And when somebody does it, said something, we shout it out. We do an email, blast it out to everybody. Hey, way to go, and people love that. They love that.
Oh, yeah.
And no, I think those reviews are things in my life. They're a thing in the past. I just don't think they work, and I think it's archaic. And I think
Agreed.
people want immediate affirmation, and I think if you got to call them on the carpet, then you need to do it right then. It's like a dog. My dog trying to deal with it. You got to deal with it right then. You can't wait. If he does something bad and then tomorrow talk to him about it. You got to deal with it right then and just do it discreetly. Don't embarrass them. But I'd say praise in public and criticize in private.
Oh, I love that.
But well, great. So contact information in case somebody wants to get up with you. This has been really good. Thank you so much, Molly.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you go to my website, hiringandempoweringsolutions.com. And you can just subscribe to our blog and our podcast. We drop a brand new podcast every Tuesday and every Thursday. We haven't missed one blog since 2008, where we drop tremendous amount of tips and techniques in regards to how to empower your employees to step up and lead.
Great. Well, thank you for taking time, and I hope that we'll catch up again with that. I enjoy talking to you. You got a lot of.
Oh, thank you for having me.
You have a wealth of knowledge. We need to tap into it more.
Thanks.
Until next time, this is Ken Hardison, dedicated to your success.
You have been listening to the Grow Your Law Firm podcast, the podcast that leads lawyers to more growth, profit, and freedom. Go to growyourlawfirm.com to find more ways to market and manage your law firm. Please leave us a rating and review wherever you listen to your podcasts.